Hey everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus doing a live stream, something we haven't done in quite a while. Figured I would try to get back into the habit of this a little bit. I think we're going to be streaming some Izzet Phoenix in Pioneer. This is one of the more recent lists that did a 5-0. It's an interesting list, especially if you compare it to the modern list, the cards that we're working with here. The main difference is obviously the severe lack of 1 mana cantrips. The main ones that you have access to are Opt and technically Haggle from Merchant of the Veil. And then there are also some other limited ones such as Quicken, etc. But that doesn't really suffice for what the deck is trying to do. So basically this is similar to the modern deck in that you're trying to abuse Thing in the Ice and Arclight Phoenix. Beyond that, this deck is abusing such powerful cards as Treasure Cruise and Fiery Temper. This deck is using 4 copies of Izzet Charm, 4 copies of Chart a Course. Both these cards have been forced into service in the modern version a little bit. They're not that strong of a card, but in this format they're probably perfectly fine. Strategic Planning also takes the place of some of these other cards. Basically, look at the top 3, put 1 in your hand, the rest in the graveyard. Beyond that, it's a very interesting deck. Very similar to the modern one, but you're obviously down on power some. You have Wild Slash instead of Lightning Bolt, Fiery Temper as another burn spell. Usually you try to abuse it with the discard outlets, which you have a lot more of. You have 4 Chart, 4 Izzet Phoenix, 4 Izzet Charm, 2 copies of Merchant in the Veil. So you have 8 cards you'd really like to discard, the 4 copies of Arclight Phoenix, the 4 copies of Fiery Temper. This also helps you increase your spell count for both Thing in the Ice and Arclight Phoenix. And finally you have Treasure Cruise and Crackling Drake as kind of your additional late game. Beyond that, land base, obviously, no fetch lands, so you're working with Spire Bluff Canal, Sulphur Falls, Steam Vents, and then some mountains and some islands, as well as some Shivan Reefs. Sideboard, you got some counter spells and Mystical Dispute and Spell Pierce, especially against the blue base decks to try to resolve your spells. Brazen Borrower can come in a lot of situations when you need an additional threat, as well as different ways to interact with your opponent. 2 copies of Abrade whenever you need another Lightning Strike effect and a Shatter. 2 copies of Fry helps you deal with problematic planeswalkers and white creatures, so hit things like Siege Rhino, can hit things like Oko. A lot of different cards this can hit that can be relevant in the format. 2 copies of Anger of the Gods, much like its modern counterpart, you play these when you're on the more controlling game plan. And then Royal Silence and Chandra Torch of Defiance when you kind of need to play a little bit more of a grindy game. Anyways, with that, let's get into a league and see how things go here. Been probably a while since we've live streamed. Most of the stuff lately has just been different leagues or different versus game videos and such. Been a while since we've played, and I needed to get some more practice with the Pioneer format, although everything right now is heavily discounted with the fact that there's a banned and restricted announcement on, I believe it's this coming Monday. So, who knows what they'll ban. I think cards probably to watch are things like Treasure Cruise and such. Other cards, they might... This format, I think, has ended up being much more fair than they expected. A lot of it will probably depend on how the PTQ ended up going today. Though I suspect there are decks that have been performing well that they want to get out of the format. This hand's pretty decent. We have a Phoenix in our hand. Could be a while before we can bring it back, unfortunately. We have an Opt to try to find a Thing in the Ice. A lot less payoffs in this version, but I still think this hand's fine. Do I shock in here? I think in the dark, sure, we'll go ahead and shock in here. Go ahead and let them take, that way. It's possible they could take off, but I think they're most likely to take Izzet Charm or one of the lightning axes. Take Izzet Charm. Doesn't surprise me terribly much, I guess. This could be a devotion deck. Not sure what else is playing. Swamp into whatever. Yeah, it's a pretty good draw. It's another reason I didn't really want to opt is in case we got into something that they would want to take with the Thoughtseize. This kind of hand is a little bit awkward with a lack of other cantrips. So... okay, sure. Kept both cards on top. This hand has a severe lack of cantrips, which makes our hand very awkward. Guess the card they're most apt to take here is probably Treasure Cruise. Yep. So... some type of blue-black control list, or possibly... wow. Alright, well... we have some creatures covered. Beyond that, we're not doing a whole lot for a while. So some type of Grixis list. Wow. Yep. I think we've missed too many land drops at this point. Probably just go ahead and pack it in at this point. We're just too far behind. Alright, so got some style of that. We definitely want the Mystical Disputes. Probably want the Spell Pierce. The Fries could be reasonable. The Wild Slash is probably not going to do a whole lot. Lightning Axes obviously are a little bit awkward. Depends on... how far do we want to go down the rabbit hole? Scions could be reasonable. Chandra's could be reasonable. Could just take out all the burn spells. But that leaves us somewhat cold to their planeswalkers. I know in Modern, a lot of times, against the true control decks, you take out the things in the ice. But I don't know if this is the kind of matchup you can take out all of them. And then maybe go down a copy of Treasure Cruise, because they might bring in some graveyard heat, and or we can't get as efficiently fill the graveyard. This hand's fine. A little bit heavy on the Treasure Cruise end. Maybe I should... It's possible this wasn't an actual keep at the time, just because we have the 2 Treasure Cruises. Okay, no Thoughtseize on 1. So what are the odds that they'll cast something we want to fry here? Probably not very high. Yeah, just get this into play tapped and hold up Mystical Dispute this turn. The question is, do I play around Spell Pierce or Mystical Dispute here, or do I just jam? They're supposed to jam. Of course they have the Mystical Dispute. Not gonna fight over this, but I just want to get something on the board. See if they jam a Nicol Bolas the Ravager here. Kalitas, huh? That one's going to be annoying to deal with. It's one of the awkward parts about relying on red removals outside of the Lightning Axe. We wouldn't have had terribly many ways to interact with that. You really gonna try to jam Bolas here? I mean, that's a card that could certainly get us back into the game. Be great if we could hit an untapped blue source here to hold up Mystical Dispute. In the ice. Obviously, if they have another Bolas here, we're in some trouble. They need 6 mana for. Take through time, sure. the Spire Bluff Canal here. I think that is a reasonable enough card to hold up. Yep, nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. Just gonna take over there, friend. Could take Mystical Dispute if they're trying to resolve something this turn. Could take Treasure Cruise. Fry answers everything, well, a lot of the threats in their deck outside of Kalidas. Took Mystical Dispute. Alright. So here comes a Bolus. Ah, the Ravager. Sure. Cast Opt here to get some idea of what's going on. Huh. So what do we discard here? Guess it's a copy of the Royal Scions? Or is it? Is it the Scions or is it the Treasure Cruise? The Scions just seems like we're going to have too tough of a time to defend against or defend with, so... Certainly seems like they could be holding up a copy of Mystical Dispute, so maybe it's possible I'm supposed to Treasure Cruise first. Well, it wouldn't technically be Scred Red, but I think it could be an interesting deck. A Fatal Push. That would require a third mana source that I don't currently have. So basically the game's over. Cool. I think red mid-range could be a possibility. I did see someone was messing with I think it was a red-based Dragons list. Really haven't had a chance to look at like everything people are throwing at the wall here in Pioneer. But we're in a lot of trouble. This Kalidas is kind of winning the game. I probably should have left in Lightning Axe at the very least. Yeah, there is anger in our sideboard, but unfortunately the problem is we're just too far. It's from play, correct? Yeah. Alright, I mean... I suppose it's theoretical. No, we're just too far behind at this point. Alright. Running into a hard control deck. Haven't played Izzet Prowess yet, Ken, but I would say it's probably better than Boros Burn. The problem I noticed in the testing that I've done with Boros Burn is the more burn based it is, rather than I think most of the red aggressive decks are going to have to be more creature based than spell based. I don't think the spell base is there to support a consistent, really good, more traditional burn based deck like I tried out in the first league. I think you're going to have to go more with Prowess, so Izzet Prowess is probably going to be better than Boros Burn. Now, that said, there might be some setup of Boros Burn that has like 16 creatures that's reasonable. I just think it runs out of gas, and I think we greatly underestimate the impact that the Horizon lands had on improving burn in Modern. This hand is terrible. Alright, our opponent conceded game 1. They conceded the match. Sure, okay. Yeah, that's... Well, I mean, technically, Fiery Temper is a 1 damage, 1 mana, 3 damage spell. I just honestly think it's the running out of gas and the not enough damage from the spells. You're welcome, Ken. Like I said, there's probably some Boros Burn list out there that's fine. I just think, at least until things like Treasure Cruise get banned, that you're probably better off playing Prowess. And even after Treasure Cruise is still probably better off playing Prowess. So if I could guarantee to draw a second land, I would keep this hand in a heartbeat. So 19 lands, 4 copies of 2 copies of Merchant and 4 copies of Opt. So 6, 25 hits and 2 draw steps. I'm going to keep, but this hand is severely risky. It has a huge upside if we hit a second land. JK. And it looks like we're up against another Grixis deck. Okay, sure. My hand pretty much does the same. Three pair. I win. Jeez. I'm not even going to play the Wild Slash, because if they really feel like taking Wild Slash, more power to you. Wow, and they take the Wild Slash. Ah, because they have a Jace. That explains it. Man, our opening keeps have not been good here. Discovery, sure. What is it with these Grixis decks, man? Didn't think Grixis was that hot of a commodity in Pioneer so far. Alright, so they're going to get to flip their Jace, flashback. Probably flash black the Thoughtseize if they want to. Yep. Probably take the other thing in the ice. I guess they could take Izzet Charm potentially as a card that could possibly mess with what they're trying to do. Oh, they just had another Thoughtseize. That's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. So they have a Fatal Push in their yard, so playing out the thing in the ice wouldn't do us a whole lot. Guess we hold up Izzet Charm. Just supposed to main phase this. Feels like I'm really supposed to main phase this, even though it's an instant. Could Shard a course. I think I'm supposed to main phase this. My lord. Yeah, I'm not arguing that the black removal is like one of the big draws to that in the format. I'm just like, do we have a chance of chaining enough spells to get Phoenixes back? There's no sense in playing out the thing in the ice because it just becomes a very simple. So if they're going for Bolus here, seems like people like them some Nicol Bolas Dragon God in this format. Problem becomes, like, what is our realistic chance to chain spells here? So discard thing? Question mark? Feels like the ship has sailed on thing in the ice. So I could play Treasure Cruise here, but I think I'm better off holding it in my hand, forcing them to Thoughtseize us. Because basically our entire game plan now revolves around those copies of the problem becomes is I need a 1-mana spell next turn to trigger my Phoenixes, and yeah. Looks like it's not going to really matter either way. Yeah, they took Treasure Cruise. And the problem is with... Oh, there's going to go Nicol Bolas the Ravager, too. Okay. So are they just going to take, like, every single spell we have? mean, we're gonna have to get lucky here. Yeah, we're just too far behind at this point. It's really hard to chain spells. You are right, O'Doyle. It's possible I was supposed to. It's possible that I was supposed to treasure cruise there. So at least we're gonna have a pretty good idea of what we're supposed to do in the Grixis matchup as far as sideboarding. 2 copies of Fry, 2 copies of Chandra, 2 copies of the Royal Scions. Probably want to leave Lightning Axes in our deck. Wild Slash feels like it's too low impact. Cut those. Guess we can cut all the Fiery Tempers because we do have copies of Lightning Axe and Izzet Charm as well. Question becomes, probably cut a copy of Treasure Cruise. And what else do we cut? Is it a copy or 2 of Thing? Feels like it might be a copy or 2 of Thing, simply because they do have Fatal Pushes in their deck. Yeah, I agree, but I still think you're still supposed to try to play as well as you can, even if your opponent is too far ahead. Well, thanks, Snapkeep. Send me a message via the email. It's mtgotavern@gmail.com. I'll take a look at it later. It's kind of hard to look at like different things while I'm actually streaming. It's been a while since I've actually streamed, so I would certainly be open to doing collabs. Yeah, even with Walkers as a win con, he's still showing us he still has shown us Jace, and the fact that they likely have copies of Kalitas in the sideboard, Kalitas, however you want to pronounce it. This hand's fine, but really no momentum. Still think I keep this hand. They have a lot of discard spells, so I think leading up, shocking in and playing Spell Pierce on 1, or holding up Spell Pierce on 1 just to protect the rest of our hand. But they have way too many discard spells in their deck. Maybe it's... He might. Like, that's the thing, is, like, there's no... This early in the format, there's really no, like, 100% set lists. So, and, you know, after Monday, who knows? They could ban, like, 4 cards on Monday. They could ban nothing. You know, they could ban Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise, Saheeli Rai, or Feldar Guardian. You know, or they could ban absolutely nothing. You know, we honestly just don't know. Do I counter with Mystical Dispute here, or do I counter with Izzet Charm? It's kind of frickin' brutal, to be completely honest. Be great to draw the Royal Scions here. Or an island. Island's good. One of those things is not like the other. So annoying. I think Thoughtseize is better in the format because there's so many things, so many creatures that Duress just missed. I honestly think 4 Despise for Thoughtseize is probably better in the main. So it looks like they're going to go for the Deny Us Resources plan. See, I don't know. I haven't played enough of the format yet to judge like what should be banned and what shouldn't be banned, if anything. I honestly think the presence of Thoughtseize, Thought Erasure, Duress, I think those cards can honestly keep a lot of the combo decks in check, especially everything else going on. But Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise might have to go. I think with the fetch land's not legal, that they're not quite as ridiculous, but they're still the cards that are tying all these like very powerful control decks together. No. Oh, okay. That's whatever. Not Fighting Discovery. It's really hard to fight through 3 discard spells, though. It's possible I was supposed to use Mystical Dispute on the Thought Erasure, but so we can only keep one of those. That is interesting. Annoying, but interesting. I almost wonder if these... Seriously? So annoying. Not gonna play Haggle here. Just not worth it. That's certainly a line that we could have taken to Doyle. I think Merchant just has a lot more upside, potentially. They were going to resolve a Bolus the Ravager. They are. I think we pitched the Lightning Axe. And hope to rip something. Start by casting Haggle. Yes, discarding that. Hit an Opt, which is nice. A Chandra, Torch of Defiance, which is very nice. Hopefully they don't have another Ravager here. So, exactly how many discard spells are you running? Jiminy Christmas. Is our last card a Fatal Push? Sure. Alright, so... no way of bringing any of this crap back, so... I guess it really doesn't matter. "40 discard spells, 20 lands." Definitely feels like it sometimes. You're about to dig through time, aren't you? They're about to cast a copy of Dig Through Time. I could loot here, but I don't think that's particularly relevant. Fortunately, Izzet Charm and Mystical Dispute are the only remaining counter spells in our deck. If they get to go discard spell into something here, we could be in some trouble. Alright, well... hopefully they don't just counter this. Doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of counter spells, though. That Lightning Axe. Just play Phoenix here. I don't have one. I haven't played Dynavolt Tower probably since it was in Standard. Drown Cast Down. Sure. Okay. Yep, Dragon God into... that seems very curious. I don't know that I would have played things the way our opponent played things. I think I would have wanted to have killed the thing in the ice just to avoid this kind of a situation. If you are looking for lists, I would honestly look at, oh boy, the old Thought Erasure to Scry feels really bad. I think we keep that in our hand. Do we just play it as Haggle and then play out Merchant in the Veil? I think we just keep it in our hand. Is it possible we could actually win this game? Gonna be thoroughly punished if they hit like a Languish or something here. Ritual of Soot. Any of the above. Oh my. Alright. Yeah, Desi is legal? There's a lot of really powerful, interesting cards that are legal in this format. How do I change my sideboarding plan? Don't think I really still want any of these cards. The only creatures they've shown us are Golbolus the Ravager and copies of Jace in Game 1. So I still don't think I want to change any of the spells in my deck. Could bring in Treasure Cruise, but what would I cut for it is the question mark. I think I have enough. The problem with that right now, O'Doyle, is specifically... Okay, I think we keep this hand. It is admittedly a risk, especially against a turn 1 Thoughtseize. But, and of course they have a turn 1 Duress, because why wouldn't they? The problem with green-black mid-range specifically is the fact that Sultai just does what green-black's trying to do better because of dig through time. Are they going to try to cheese us? They could just try to cheese us here with... Nope, they take Mystical Dispute. Alright. I think I'm just supposed to play Sulphur Falls here. And we're going to get Thought Erasure. Didn't like it. Yep. Who needs cards when you can just play discard every turn? Which card? Discard. Okay, is it Charm? Sure. Let's play out Thing in the Ice. Which, ironically, we only have 2 in our deck, and they're both in our opening hand, so... And it honestly doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of, Yeah, I think I need to hit land drops here. If they want to counter this with Drown in the Lock, I'm perfectly fine with that. Yep. Not going to play out the second thing here. Interesting. Problem with playing this waiting game is the more land drops they hit, the worse off we are. I think I can't beat a Nicol Bolas, God, whatever from this point. Yep, sure. Not even going to try to fight over that, because I think you're trying to land a... Never mind. We are so stuck on mana right now, it's unbelievable. So they have 2 cards in hand. They showed us a Mystical Dispute last game. I think I'm just supposed to continue playing Drago. Because I think if they would have had a discard spell, they probably would have fired it off by now. I'm supposed to take this opportunity to try to resolve this, because we really need to hit land drops. Pitching that, and what is the other pitch? The Thing in the Ice? I think it might be Thing in the Ice. So I could try to Treasure Cruise to draw a Mystical Dispute. I could lead on Royal Scions to try to draw out a Mystical Dispute. I could play Crackling Drake to line up a Mystical Dispute. I think I'm supposed... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the problem is I would need to... I guess Drake's okay here. It's probably going to get hit with a Mystical Dispute. No, actually resolved. I am mildly shocked at that. It's probably dead. Probably going to die to a... Okay, it dies to nothing. Are you about to dig through time? 1, 2. Yeah, it feels like a dig through time. Nope, Discovery. Alright, sure. Okay. Drown in the Loch, sure. So Fatal Push up. So I think I'm supposed to go... 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. I think I'm supposed to lead on... Treasure Cruise first. now they could, or I was going to say, now they could be in some trouble, because it doesn't feel like their deck is particularly capable of fighting through all of that. So, interesting. Alright, well, 2-1 start so far, even if one was admittedly a concession. But I think on that note, I'm going to go ahead and take one quick short break, and I will be right back. Alright, we're back. Two grindy matches against Grixis. Don't know if keeping the one-landers is better or worse. I know against discard decks, at least in Modern, you generally don't want to mulligan aggressively. So it's like a question of... Like that one game we certainly got punished for keeping the one-landers. I don't know against this specific, or with this specific archetype and the lack of one-mana cantrips, if you're supposed to aggressively mulligan the one-landers or not. This is a keep. It's a weird hand, but it's a keep. Sulfur Falls, no mountain hands are weird. How many... Just weird. Like, how many Grixis decks are we going to play against? Or blue-black based whatever decks? Here comes a Thought Erasure. What a shocker. Oh no. This is actually, whatchamacallit combo. Interesting. Yep. Well, there goes probably what, Chart a Course? Looks like we're up against Kethis combo, which is mildly annoying. Yeah, we don't have any... Has there been any Kethis combo decks that have actually... Kethis combo decks that have done well? Kethis, the Hidden Hand. Nope, just a couple modern... I guess I suppose I could look at the modern list to get some idea of... Sure. Takes Treasure Cruise. Interesting. Exile target historic card from your graveyard. Sure. So if we ever chain cantrips, they're in some trouble here. Are they really just going to exile the top card of their library? Okay, dig through time. Okay. So dig through time. Feels like a dig through time. Hanger Backwalker, sure. Arclight Phoenix. Okay. This has been a weird game. So are they not a Kethis deck, or are they just some style of... I don't even know. Really would have loved to have drawn some type of cantrip there, but I guess the Phoenixes will do. Guess either way that puts them on a 2-turn clock. Teferi, sure. No idea what's going on here. I'm not even going to pretend that I know what our opponent's deck is completely up to. So we know one of our opponent's cards is Mox Amber. And our opponent scoops it up. So some type of potentially Kethis deck. Well, he might need Detention Sphere, but I'm not even sure what his deck is doing. Is he just a 4-color Kethis deck? Is he... I'm not really sure. Like, I see Lazav and I'm thinking Kethis, but then we didn't see any green mana out of him. So, like... I was gonna say, yeah, Kethis requires green mana. Not completely nuts there. So I guess we board as if, presuming he's Kethis or some type of graveyard-based nonsense. I suppose he could be. I mean, do we bring in a Braids? Like, see, that's what I'm saying. Is his deck is so weird in terms of like what it's trying to execute. So, no, I understand he's Esper, but the other cards that he is playing is indicating that he's a Kethis deck, with the exception of lack of a green source, or he could just be some type of Emery mid-range deck. So I could bring in a Braids. I could bring in Anger of the God. That's what I'm saying is I don't know exactly which cards are the correct ones to bring in right now. Yeah, I know he has creatures, but the problem is we don't know how reliant on those creatures he or she is. Make them at least think they have to play around Spell Pierce or something. They kept a 1-lander. I mean, we kept a very slow reactionary hand, so I'm not sure we can say a whole lot. And then we proceed to draw nothing but lands. Sure. Let him surveil first. I think we just go ahead and abrade this. Just play Crackling Drake. Do we play Crackling Drake or we just play Arclight? I feel like we're just supposed to play Arclight here because they could have boarded in Mystical Disputes. Because that's they just literally hit F6, so... That said, our hand is very flooded, so... Sin Collector... Sure? Ish? Don't think there's anything we can draw that would change... Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, Flood loses to Screw, usually? He's got a pretty good idea from that Sin Collector that it's not great. Like, I might be operating with 1 or 2 spells, maybe? Please be I was gonna say, please be a Thought Erasure. Nope. See, they are a Kethis deck. Or they're playing Kethis with no Kethis? Is that even possible? Is it possible that they don't even need Kethis in this version of the deck? Do I counter Rona, or do I just kind of let the chips fall where they may here? Does that change the... No, that would make... I think I'm just supposed to counter this, right? So that makes Fiery Temper now lethal. So they could have potentially a counterspell up here. So they have to kill us this turn. Which, I don't know, for their deck might be theoretically possible. Though I do love the screen name Octopus with a Hammer. What do they do with the other 7 tentacles? Alright, and they scoop it up. This is why I literally don't know what to make of this format. Wish our opponent good luck. So we are on the play. I think this hand's a mulligan? No, Spiral Bluff comes into play untap land, so I think I keep this one. Keep thinking that was Sulphur Falls. Oh yeah, I suspect there's a lot of really good like Burning Tree decks. Another discard spell. Who would have thunk it, right? Ironically, I think the thing that's abusing it the most is actually the Devotion decks are really abusing Burning Tree the most. Is it possible that Thing in the Ice is just that difficult to deal with in this format? I wouldn't think a deck that's like Smuggler's Copter. I think you're supposed to counter this. Looking for land drops in all the wrong places. Alright. Fortunately, we only have a Wild Slash up here, which kind of sucks. They have another Smuggler's Copter. Go them. So, I think I'm just going to hold up Fiery Temper this turn. Is that correct? Don't really want them looting, finding more land drops. So I think I'm supposed to... Really? Feels like there's some type of aggressive black deck that's just having a very slow draw. Like, I know they really want to take this Fiery Temper. Okay, so they are in fact a zombies list. Am I supposed to fight over this Smuggler's Copter? The answer is no. I think I'm just supposed to kill the creatures. But I do want to kill this before... No, they don't. There's no Grave Crawlers in this format. Wait, is Grave Crawler illegal? No, that was an Estrad, correct? Crypt Breaker. No zombies decks have yet had results. Pass turn. Okay, opponent's unfortunately drawn out of their flood. Sure. Yeah, don't particularly care about him. It's what, a 3/3? Turn around and draw another Crackling Drake. This is actually a really close game. I don't really want to discard that Chart a Course. I could have cast it, but I really don't want to give my opponent another free shot with Smuggler's Copter. Sure. That's a pretty good card. So it looks like I have no choice but to make the play. So what card do I really want to kill here? Kill that one. Pitching. Chart a Course. Wild Slash your face, flip your board. Most you can recast this turn's Diregraph Ghoul. If you try to crew your Smuggler's Copter, this feels like we're just against mono black Zumbos. they debating crewing here? It's going to bounce everything back to your hand. Dark Salvation will do nothing to it. And they can recast Diagraph Ghoul. Let's get a 2/2 on the board. Or 2/3, wow, okay. The fact it's a 2/3 seems a little bit random, but sure. Then we basically have the Abyss every turn. No, 2 of the 3 cards in their hand are copies of... Yep. Fortunately, both copies of Crackling Drake are not draws. I guess... Izzet Phoenix would be a... or Arclight Phoenix would be a decent draw. Okay, they pitch a Swamp. See what their last card is. Their Diagraph Ghoul. Dread Wonder requires what? Hellbent and 2 and a black. Another thing in the ice, huh? I think it's possible I'm just supposed to pitch this thing in the ice, honestly. I could play it, but once again, it's going to require us to draw spells. So I think it's honestly better to just pitch it and hope to draw something else. It's getting to filter through their lands this way. That's what the Royal Scions are for. Wild Slash, huh? See if they let the... Should have played the thing in the ice pre-combat. Now there's a good number of cards that are just lethal. But yeah, Jack, that's why they play Royal Scions on the sideboard. It's got a little bit more utility than Temur Battle Rage. The problem with Battle Rage specifically is we don't play a huge number of creatures, so it's... They have another zombie. Izzet charm. Is that lethal? Make sure I read all of its abilities. Okay, so only the one ability is relevant right now. But yeah, that's why the Royal Scions is a card to punch through in situations like that. Well, it doesn't give you the access to double strike. It does allow you to loot and does allow you to trample over. So that's why a large reason why Royal Scions has started to see play. As far as sideboard cards, I think Anger of the Gods is a pretty easy inclusion. A Braid is probably reasonable. Could bring in the Pierces and the Mystical, or the Pierce, but I think that's a little narrow. Could bring in Chandra here. Cards are we not interested in this matchup? The Wild Slashes aren't great because a lot of the zombies we want to kill are the zombies, and the copters are 3 mana or 3 power. But cut a cruise. Lightning Axe might be a cut here, just because 2 for 1ing ourselves to kill a creature is not that great. But does that leave us enough ways to kill Smuggler's Copter? Strategic planning. Is it charm? No lander, so pretty easy mulligan here. Chandra is a great card, but I don't think it's one we want to keep right now. Yeah, don't really particularly care about Diregraph Ghoul. It is relevant, but at the same time, it's not. So let's take the hit off the Diregraph. Anger of the Gods is a great card, but we gotta let it go. They probably have to take Thing in the Ice here. Seems like the card that screws with them the most. Alright, so sure. Yeah, so a locked lane seems like a rough one to fight through. I think we Izzet Charm, kill one of these guys. Alternatively, we could Izzet Charm for our other copy of Anger of the Gods, but I think that's a little bit too risky. That's an annoying one. A little bit less annoying now. Sure. Still would have been nice to have that Anger of the Gods we bottomed. So the problem for us is, against them, lands are good and spells are good for them. Really. That's going to be a rough one to beat. To draw a card here. Definitely feels like we need to find our other copy of Anger of the Gods. Alright, so block here, block here. Treasure Cruise, that might be a pretty good one. 6. Just pass the turn here. Could have kept the Fiery Temper on top. But it definitely feels like we're close to getting back into this game. Okay, go to 3. Is there anything that punishes us from here? So you get to take a Arclight Phoenix and recast a Dread Wanderer. That requires 0 card, 1 or fewer. Okay, so they could cast a Dread Wanderer here. Okay. Opponent with a good old Swift Rider. And that's a zombie to boot. Interesting. Sure. So what are the mathematical odds if I bottom this that I could hit another spell? We'd have to pay 4 to cast this one. Do get to draw a card. I think the upside is big enough that I'm supposed to keep this here, but it does feel a bit risky. So if they draw another removal spell, I'd just be dead. So do I risk swinging with the Phoenix here? If I chain spells, they'd just be dead next turn. Certainly a risk. If they draw a removal spell, we're dead. They draw a collective brutality, we're dead. Sure. Find another copy of Treasure Cruise. That just means we're dead, correct? Yep, because I think that's a zombie. Yep, zombie beast, sure. Alright, so what was our next draw? Next draw was a Wild Slash, Merchant of the Veil stuff. Nope, nope. Still think we're fine with what we got. Feels like there's a way we could have won that game if we would have played a little bit differently. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. This is our final game tonight. I will be trying to make streaming a little bit more often. A little bit tricky with a work and school schedule, as well as having to take my girlfriend to work sometimes in the morning, so... But I'll try to make it happen a little bit more often. Spire Bluff Canal. Yeah, I think we keep his hand. Telegraph Ghoul. Mainly digging for lands here. Is that good enough of a land? I don't think so. That one's much better. This thing in the ice down. Of course, they have the Fatal Push. Yeah, we're live, but What is it with you and War Dog? Or you and Been doing all right, War Dog. How you been? Would be a shame to lose what's probably a pretty reasonable matchup. Feels like we're just gonna lose this game. Sure. See if you're dumb enough to take one of our fiery tempers. That's pretty cool, Chris. That's a long ways away. Thanks, Chris. Time is it there? It's got to be pretty early there, huh? Womp womp. So we're dead. Can play thing in the ice, block here, take 6. Feels like we should have won that game too, some way, somehow. So, kind of a womp 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 ending there, but ready for work. Watching. Well, that's much appreciated. Unfortunately, we're just kind of wrapping things up this morning, but I think this deck's pretty reasonable without really knowing a good deal about the format. I know what the theoretical like endpoints of the format are: turn 4 kills, aggressive decks, etc. But it honestly feels like this format is more akin to it's close to standard in power level, but has the added disruption of things like Thoughtseize that keep the like busted decks like Copycat Combo and Marvel from just being completely nuts. But with things like Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time still in the format for the moment, certainly feels like the deck could, or the format could get out of hand. So I think Dig Through Time's an awesome card for us to have access to, but I wouldn't necessarily count on it staying unbanned, unfortunately. Beyond that, I really don't know. It's way too early in the format to tell. Plus, there was the PTQ today that was online. There was the bans announcements that are coming out on Monday, which means they're probably banning something. Which I think is unfortunate because I think it's still too early in the format to ban anything. I wouldn't be surprised if you see something like Once Upon a Time or Oath of Nissa or Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise get the axe first. I could definitely see Felidar Guardian going. Beyond that, I don't know if there's anything. Leyline of Abundance is another card that could potentially go. Nykthos. Really haven't seen any other things they're like doing absurdly like broken, unfair, uncounterable. I don't know. I just feel like it's too early in the format to be banning cards, but Wizards is going to do what they're going to do. So, format's a blast. Depends on what format. Standard, I think it needs banned. Pioneer and Modern, I think, can handle him. I think if you want to beat him in Standard, you have to play a deck that... I think there are cards that can beat it. I think... I don't know. He's certainly a powerful card, don't get me wrong, especially when you can play him on turn 2 in a format. But I don't know that he is the be-all, end-all in the format. Obviously, the more creature-based it is, the more powerful he is. But there are, I think, enough non-creature spells that you could make an all-planeswalker kill deck, that you could, do a lot of different things to counteract him. Obviously, a lot of people are going to things like Mystical Dispute and stuff. I think the biggest problem is playing him in something like black-green, splashing Oko and Dig Through Time. That can get pretty nasty, and that was the style of deck that did win the first challenge. I don't think I've seen what list actually won the PTQ today. I'd have to go back and dig through Twitter to see if they did something. They're going to ban the cat. The Walker, they seem... The problem with Feldar Guardian is the fact that it said permanent, so you can tap and untap anything. If they follow suit of what they did in Standard, it's going to be the cat. If they ban anything. Like I said, we'll see on Monday what they ban. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the enablers that go. Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, Once Upon a Time, Oath of Nissa, those kind of cards. I don't know that anything else has really shown its head to be that counterable. Unanswerable, I should say, not uncounterable. But yeah, format's definitely been a blast so far, and I think it'll continue to be a blast. Get to play with a lot of powerful cards, things that are banned in other formats like Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, Deathrite Shaman. So the thing with 3-drop Teferi is 3-drop Teferi forces people to play at sorcery speed. I think this is a format that so far the discard spells are better than the counter spells. I think that Teferi is a little bit worse in formats where discard spells are the primary way of answering things. And I think that a lot of... And it also helps keep one of the biggest threats to get the format out of balance in check. 3-mana Teferi answers Aetherworks Marvel. So I think that card being in the format's a good check on Aetherworks in particular. It does make Cat Combo a little bit more difficult to answer. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Cat Combo or Kethis is one of the first things on the way out as far as the combo-based decks outside of the enablers. But like I said, if they follow suit, it will be the enablers that get killed off first. Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time, those kind of things. So, no. I'm not saying it's going to get the boot. But he's very not good in a format without true fetch lands. And I don't think whatchamacallit's a good enough fetch land right now. At least not. That alone is not enough to enable him. But anywho, want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening, this morning, wherever you are. If this is your first time, please consider giving us a follow. I'm definitely going to try to more streaming. Going to be doing some more Pioneer content. Going to still do the modern content with Burn and Izzet Phoenix. So there'll be a lot of Pioneer content, a lot of modern content, and beyond that, it's kind of whatever there's time to fill in the gaps with. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Wardog, Jack, Chris, O'Doyle for hanging out. But I want to thank everybody for hanging out this evening. I wish I could stream earlier in the day, but given my work schedule, this is kind of what needs to be, such as it is. So, and War Dog, when you get a shot, send me your rock list. I'm making some changes to the. I'm going to be making some changes to the Patreon, and I think it's going to be every either 10 or 15 bucks everybody donates over time that they're going to have access to a Patreon league or a donation league. I'm not sure how I'm going to redo it exactly, but I know you've been donating for Lord knows how long, so I think I'm going to be starting to free up some leagues that way, especially for Pioneer. Lord knows what Space Marine would do if I completely unrestricted decks, and yeah, I'd be playing a control deck every night if that man had its way. So, yeah, I know. Like I said, you have quite a bit built up, so send me your rock list if you want to see it played. So maybe help you figure out a couple things that you're trying to figure out yourself. So, anyways, want to thank everybody for hanging out. If you'd like to consider supporting the channel, please check out our Patreon page. I still need to figure out how to redo it to incorporate the Pioneer content in addition to the Modern Burn content. And I still have to update the sideboard guide. I think that's going to be the last thing I do tonight, is updating the sideboard guide. Problem is I haven't been playing enough Modern Burn lately to really make some changes to. I mean, that's fine. I honestly think the black cards are better in the format. But anywho, I want to thank everybody for support this evening. This has been John for MTG Nexus. Everybody have a great night or morning wherever you are.